Hey friends, it's Deanna here today, and today we are going to talk about bishop sleeves. I am going to be using the Cuddle Up Tunic bishop sleeve to add it to one of my favorite tops. So let's do that together. Alright, so I am going to be using the beautiful bishop sleeves from the Cuddle Up Tunic. I love those sleeves. So if you want bishop sleeves, go ahead and grab that pattern and then come back and grab one of your other favorite top patterns that you want to match it with. Obviously you can use it with the Cuddle Up Tunic, but you can also use it to match other tops that you love and add that little oomph with those sleeves. So this is the only thing I'm going to tell you. I'm using this, this is actually a Discover top that I made into a one piece because you all know I'm obsessed with that pattern. So the only thing you need is you need a top that has an arm side like this. So you need one that has a shoulder and it goes around like an arm side. I know that we have patterns that are like a raglan style that go sideways right here at the sleeve. We also have a sleeveless, not sleeveless, I'm sorry, off the shoulder patterns and stuff like that that don't have quite this type of arm side. All you need is a top that has this type of arm side and you're good to go. So find your favorite top pattern. Make sure it has your arm side, and that's all you need. We can mash them up. So I made my top, already sewed the shoulders. I already attached my neckband because, you know, I wanted to go ahead and get that done. But you can do that later. It really doesn't matter. And so what I'm gonna do is, first off, usually you attach your sleeve now, but with the bishop sleeve, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and fold my pattern in half and sew my sides. So I'm gonna sew up my sides, and that sleeve is going to be an inset sleeve. That's how I'm gonna attach that bishop sleeve. And that's how I'm also gonna make sure that it's actually going to fit into my arm side, because different shirts have different size arm size depending on how wide the opening is gonna be, how low the shoulder goes, different things like that. So because of that, we sew the side first and then we'll fit the sleeve in. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew those sides. We're also gonna go ahead and prep our sleeve. So there's a couple of things we're gonna do. So as you can tell, here's my sleeve, these are my cuffs. I grabbed and I marked my sleeve front and my sleeve back. I put clips to differentiate. So I put one clip for my front, two clips for the back. You can do it different ways. Some people like to, when they're cutting the fabric, put a little notch out there of the fabric that will get eaten later. Or you can do a little notch like I do my quarters. You can do that as well. This was just easy to do, so that's why I did that. After I cut it, I just kind of pinned it right where it was sitting at. So then what we're going to do with the sleeve is, first off, the way, like I said, we're gonna fit it into our cap is we're gonna go from one end to the other, and we're gonna put in a basting stitch. What is a basting stitch? A basting stitch is a long straight stitch on your sewing machine. My sewing machine goes all the way to 5. Some go higher, some go a little bit lower. It is the longest sorry, that's my iron turning off. It is the longest straight stitch your machine can do. And what it does is, I'm just gonna go ahead and use that to gather the top of my sleeve. You can gather different ways, but since it's just a small space that we're gonna gather, a straight stitch will do just fine. So I'll put a straight stitch all the way around the top of the cap, and then we'll gather it, once it's sewn together, we'll gather it to fit into our arm side, and we'll go over that in a minute. Before I do that though, I'm gonna fold it in half. Let's just fold it in half, right sides together, because we're gonna sew this side first. It's one of the things that we're also going to do. And I'm gonna go ahead and pin to sew that, because we're gonna do everything at the same time, sort of, because that's how I roll. Now, you don't have to do everything at the same time. You can take your steps and divide them up. Here comes Beauregard. Trying to get some love and attention. I'm sewing right now. He wants to say hello to you all, but he just threw a dirty old bone he's been chewing on my lap because he wants to play. But anyway, sorry for the interruption. So we're gonna sew that side. So what I was going to do is, since I folded it, I want to find, as you can see, he's like knocking my board. I want to find that top of my sleeve, and I'm gonna mark it. And this one I'm just gonna mark with a little notch. I don't want to play right now, I'm sewing. So the reason why I do that little notch right there is because once we gather, we want to know what the top of the sleeve is, because that's what we're going to put on the top of our shoulder, our line right here. So we want to make sure that we have that marked so we don't lose that later. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do a couple things. I'm going to sew those right sides together first. I'm going to put in that basting stitch at the top of our sleeve cap. And then another thing that we're going to do is, you see this big poofiness at the bottom? That is what makes the sleeve be all billowy and pretty. So what we're gonna do at the bottom of that sleeve is, once I sewed it, I'm gonna go all the way around and put a basting stitch at the bottom of that sleeve as well. Because then we'll gather it the size of our cuff, right? And that's how we'll attach it to our cuff. So we can do all those steps at the same time while we're on our sewing machine, and that way we don't have to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, okay? Another thing that we can do while we're sewing everything together is we're gonna grab our armband, fold it, right sides together, I'm sorry, on the long edge, and we're going to sew that edge to make it one, whoa, that just went flying, to make it one cuff. And do that for both. Now, again, you don't have to do them all at the same time. I just feel like for me, it saves time when I just get all my fabric prepped, all my steps, and then I go and sew, and then do whatever it is that I need to do next. I just like doing that. What do you like to do? Let me know in the comments below. Do you like to take your steps one at a time? Sew one thing, come back, prep the next thing, sew the next thing, or do you do everything at the same time, kind of like I do? Just get everything ready as much as you can get ready and then go and sew. And sometimes I actually will have different patterns that I'm working on and prep them at the same time and sew, you know, depending on the color of the thread, of course. All right, so let's sew all those things up. All right, make sure that your stitch is at a long, okay, mine goes all the way to 5, so I made it go all the way to the 5. And we can start by whichever you want. You can gather your sleeve first, the bottom of your sleeve or your sleeve cap, it doesn't really matter. Just make sure, like I said, you have, well, I don't know if I said it, let me say it. Leave a tail in the back for when you go to gather it. And then here we go. Then leave a tail at the end after you finish. And then do the same for the top. Now, remember, I have these clips here to tell me which one's the back and the front. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove them, but I'm only gonna put a pin, a clip on the back one. So I'm not gonna put a clip on the front one. I'm just gonna put a clip on the back again, so I remember which one's the back and which one's the front. Don't forget to mark it. Now I'm gonna do the same for the other sleeve. I usually do it about a 1/4 inch away from the top of my sleeve, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. It really doesn't matter. You just want it to be basted. That's gonna get pulled out after when I go to sew it on. Alrighty, easy peasy, sleevey squeezy. Okay, that was corny and weird. I'm gonna grab, so this is my sleeve cuff for later. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let's get these folded and out of the way. So I'm just gonna fold them wrong sides together now and make my little cuffity cuff. And I don't know why I'm doing this right now, because this is not the next step. Let me just, you know what? I feel like doing it right now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. Honestly, when you make sure, one of the things that's really important as you're learning to sew or as you're working with a new pattern is to actually, you know, read your instructions. But remember, once your instructions are read, that is how you're supposed to do it. But you can, you know, switch up your order as long as it's not something crucial to the assembly of the pattern. So like something like, you know, prepping your cuffs like I'm doing right now, this is not the time to do it, but you know what? I'm doing it right now. Okay, anyway, we'll finish the other one later, but I don't know why I did that. Okay, I'm gonna grab my sleeve and I'm gonna show you on one of the sleeves. I'm gonna leave my bodice inside out. And so I'm cutting out the serger tails. I can do that on these because they're gonna get, I'm gonna sew the sleeve to it so it'll get cut in there. But when it's at the bottom, when you're not gonna be sewing it in, it's better for you to tuck in your tails. Don't just rip them off because they can start coming undone and you don't want that. All right, so here's the top of my sleeve. And how do I know it's the top? Is because I kept that mark. But if you didn't, it has the shape of the arm side. You see that? On this, the bottom of the sleeve, it's more like a rounded look. It's wider and more round, like it's not, it doesn't have the curve that the arm side has. So don't worry about it if you say, oh my goodness, I didn't mark it, now I can't remember. Now you know how to remember. I'm gonna turn the sleeve right side out. I'm gonna trim this little one. Okay, so what we're gonna do is here is we know that that's the back because I marked it. Obviously, well, the front is the lower part, the back is the higher part on your neck. This is the front up here and the back is back there. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and grab my sleeve and tuck it into my arm side of my top so that the right sides are touching. I'm gonna grab first that seam where the armpit meets right there and put it together. And then the top of my sleeve where I marked, that's gonna go right up here at the shoulder seam. All right, so now what I'm gonna do with the rest of my sleeve is I'm going to gather my sleeve by pulling on the bobbin thread, the back thread, and gather it to fit into my arm side. So if it's, we'll just fit it right here. Don't pull, don't stretch, don't nothing. And then here it's just gather to fit. Now you wanna make those gathers even on each side. And because you have this clip right here, you wanna make sure you have gathers right there too. So make them go all the way up. Don't just omit those gathers right there. So we're just gathering it to fit. It's not a huge lots of gather. Again, if you are doing like your arm side is smaller, you might have a little bit more gathering on there, but not totally over the top. And we're gonna pin or clip right there, leaving those gathers to fit right there. You see that? So it's just, I just gathered it a little bit. Now sometimes I will, if I want to, tie those two threads right there so that it doesn't come undone. It is up to you. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Now I can remove this pin now because I know that that's my back, so I already fit it in there. And we're going to clip, gather a little bit, all the way up to fit. Make sure again those gathers are even. And you can gather it first before you put it on there, but it's nice to do it once it's on there because then you can see how much you need to gather. Look at it from the bottom so you can see your gathers. See how there's like more gathers on this side than on this side? All right, well, let's fix that. Let's make sure that they're even. And again, if your gathers are not 100% even, honestly, it's not going to be super noticeable because this is gonna be on the cap. Just make sure that you're going to the same spot. That way they're nice and, you know, pretty even so that it looks even on your shoulder. There it is. It's in there. Then we'll go and sew it on and pull that basting stitch off and our cap is on the arm side. So I'm gonna do the same for the other sleeve. I guess I missed the spot when I was sewing it on. When I go over there to serge it, I'll go over this little spot. Always make sure, can you see me? Always make sure that your fabrics are together when you're sewing together. All right, so now my arm sides are ready and we've got our bottom of our sleeve. So if you want to go ahead and get that bottom of your sleeve ready to sew as well, so you can do it all at the same time, I'm going to show you that right now. I grab my bottom of my sleeve and here's my cuff that I already got prepped. You see that it's cut in half. I mean, it's folded in half, not cut in half. And then I'm going to pull on that basting stitch. Let me remove this, get it out of the way. I'm going to pull on that basting stitch and gather the sleeve to the width of my cuff. Now that it's gathered the width of my cuff, we're going to fit it right sides together and clip. Well, let me get that seam to seam. Keep dropping pins everywhere. Or clips, at least it's clips and not actual pins to poke me when I'm lugging around. So there it is, and then again we'll sew that on the round. I'm gonna do the same for the other cuff and then we're gonna go sew it. One of the things that you wanna make sure of when you're putting these two together, it's to have those gathers be sticking straight up. Oh, and I also wanted to say the cuff I'm using is the cuff that comes with the bishop sleeve. So I'm using the same cuff of the bishop sleeve. So everything to put the bishop sleeve together is in the pattern that I'm using, which is, again, I'm using the Cuddle Up tunic sleeve pattern, bishop sleeve pattern. Oh, did I tell you? Yeah, I did. Make sure those gathers are sticking straight up when you're doing it, when you're putting them on there. Because if one gather is flopping down, it won't get sewn in there. And then you'll have like a little piece will be sticking down. You don't want that. All right, I want to mention that usually I like to sew with my ruffles sticking up. I don't know why I did that one with them sticking down. I like to be able to see them. That way I know that I'm getting them caught in there as I'm sewing. Let's keep that in mind. For fixing that little area that I left, I'm gonna see right here is where I left that gap. I'm gonna start a little bit farther down away from it. I'm gonna pull that part over kind of and stretch it out so it gets caught in there. You can see I didn't really trim like any of it because I still wanted to keep the shape of the sleeve. All right, we're basically done with our top. All we need to do now is pull all those basting stitches off, which you just do by pulling the bobbin thread out. It's usually better when you do it from the back side. And then, or you might have to use a seam ripper to just pull that thread out. Just comes right off. As I say that, this one is giving me a hard time. Anyway, and then hem my top just like I would with the regular pattern. And that's it. That's all there is to it. I'm trying to grab that because I want to pull that basting stitch off and show you at least one side, one arm. All right, basting stitch off. And here's my beautiful bishop sleeve. How pretty is that? Can't wait to put it on and try it on and show it to you. All right, we are done. How cute are these sleeves? I just love it. There's a tiny bit of gathering here at the shoulder, not a whole lot. Just enough to make it fit and look cute. I love the billowing of the sleeve here at the cuff. I just think it looks amazing, and I think it would look amazing with all kinds of tops too, like the Slow Sunday with the v-neck, or just the different kinds of tops. Even if you wanted to color block a top as well, super cute. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please comment, like, share, subscribe if you haven't. Let me know what other hacks you want to see. And let me know if you did make a top with this hack. Come share it on our Facebook and Instagram. We love to see what you're making, and we love being inspired by your beautiful makes. All right, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!